Okay.
My name is Sam Battaglia from Nutley, New Jersey. We have been living in Nutley all our lives. This is my high school sweetheart, Kathy.
And you want me to take over now?
Yeah, right.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Kathy,
Look at me, don't worry about
don't look at her.
No,
Look
don't
at
look at
you.
me, okay?
Okay. I'll be the one with all the questions, ladies and gentlemen.
That's fine.
Kathy Battaglia, Sam and I, our daughter Kristen, came down to Beacon in 1992, stayed here for 5 years, graduated with 2 separate degrees. She did an AA, and then she did her bachelor degree.
Sylvia Neal, in McKinney, Texas now, and my son came 1 year before Deborah.
I'm Catherine Tinney, and
Catherine, don't worry about the camera. Just pretend you're talking to me. This is just a very easy
okay, I
conversation
forgot
between
about
you
that.
and I, okay?
Okay. I'm Catherine Tinney, and we live here in Florida for most of the year. Summer months we spend up in Virginia, and it's our son Matthew went to Beacon College and joined the same year that Blake did. So,
I'm Eileen Marinakis. I'm here in the company of my husband George. Our son Christopher enrolled at Beacon in the fall of 1993. He graduated in May of 1997 with a degree in liberal studies. That's what it was called at that time. Now that major is independent studies. Thank you. And we are from New Jersey.
Yeah, I'm George Marinakis. We live in Cape May County, New Jersey, and our son was fortunate to have the opportunity to come to Beacon College, and one of the early students graduated in 1997.
Okay, let's go back maybe to around 1986, 87. Is that when you got involved with Beacon? When did you hear about it?
My son went 1 year before Deborah came, and Deborah's first year as president of the college was 1992.
Correct.
So I guess he came in 91,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going to pull him out after 1 year.
Well, now, were you on the original board, or?
No, not the original board, but after Deborah came, what happened is at the school, end of the school year, I had called Pat Latham, because we lived in Virginia at the time, and I told her that I was pulling my son out of school. And she wanted to know the reasons why, and I just said, well, it's not the program for him. It's not the program that they advertise. And they focus more on behavior rather than education. That was my view of it. And so the new president's term was expiring that year. And so I guess several parents had called in with complaints about the program that they were pulling their kids out. So Pat, it was kind of a succession of visits. She asked me and Kay, I think, to come on the board that summer, and that we needed to get a new president. And I had known Deborah in New York. She created a program for Board of Cooperative Education Services in New York for all those schools in Westchester County. And so that's where she met my son as a little 5 or 6 year old. And so we knew her all that time in New York. And then we moved to Virginia. And he went to a private school, high school there. Anyway, Pat said, we need to find a new president of the college. And I said, well, I know someone that's very good. And she said, who? And I told her, and she said, well, can you get her to come down and talk to us? And I said, yeah, I think so. So I gave her a call, and we had a board meeting after that, didn't we? And Deborah was there, and in Pat Latham's office in Washington, D.C. And she gave us a background, her work and her views on different aspects of teaching learning disabled kids, and it was a go from there.
That's just history. Now, were you on the board already?
No, I wasn't, Steve.
What was
At that time.
your first experience with the college? When did you first get involved in it?
Well, my son went there the same year that Blake Neal was there, also my son Matthew Timothy. And my husband and I we had the same feelings that Sylvia has expressed regarding the program that year, and that it was not at all what we had been led to believe would be the program for the students during that year. I also talked to Pat Latham, someone that my husband had already known since they worked together with the Securities and Exchange Commission years before. So we had made contact several times during the year, off and on during the year. She also said at the time that we knew she and Peter were basically the founding individuals they were the ones who got the 501c3 status for the school, and they were the primary board members. At the time, there may have been a couple of others, but they were leaving. She invited myself and Sylvia to join the board, and also suggested at the time that they were considering getting a new president, and that would we be still then more interested in continuing our involvement at Beacon.
So what made you get involved in that?
We were invited to join the board.
But why? What led you to that? What was there about the college that you really wanted to participate in?
Well, there were very few places that were out there for kids with learning differences, and we wanted to see the college succeed and go forward.
We were interested also in more specific programs addressed to the students, so that just simply was lacking in the year that they were there, which was basically kind of a lost year for them. Not happy. My son was not happy. We knew that, and we would have made a change anyway. And so in talking with Pat, she described to me the program she was interested in, which was there was going to be a lot more emphasis on the faculty that would address the students with learning disabilities. The prior program had focused primarily on the fact that the children were having, they weren't children, of course, these were high school graduates who basically needed emotional support rather than an academic program. And we were more interested in a faculty that would address our children, the other students' learning difficulties, and perhaps if there were some kind of a psychological overlay from having been rejected or isolated in prior programs, that we wanted situations set up where as part of the program that those kinds of issues would be addressed. And we had basic plans for the curriculum, what it would entail. It would be a regular college curriculum, which really wasn't there during the year before. The curriculum, we wanted to include English, history, math, with an emphasis on majors that we thought our students could reasonably look forward to. So in the beginning, we chose an emphasis on social services, and of course computers then were becoming very more and more important in society, and so the other was the computer science at the time. And in addition to that, we felt socialization, because of the difficulties that they had, that we wanted programs that were mandatory programs that would address their need that way, possibly through clubs of interest, but we wanted their participation in those clubs to be mandatory. In other words, that was something they could join one or the other, but they had to join something. So those are the kinds of things that we felt were lacking in the prior program. And what we were interested in seeing in the new program. The Lathams expressed that was their feeling too. And Sylvia also had said, sounded like what would interest her. And she and Ron, she and her husband, and Blake as well. And so we both decided to join the board, and we wanted to see this college continue. The reason being, getting back to your question, was we had all looked at many, many different kinds of programs, but they all seemed to be sort of adjunct things to a regular program. And again, a situation where our young adults would end up being perhaps isolated somewhat on a campus somewhere, you know, that might be, and it might not simply address those kinds of things that I just mentioned to you. So that's why that was our interest. We trusted also Pat and Peter. They had a lot of experience themselves in the prior situation, and since they had already invested quite a bit of time and money, finance, getting it started, we enjoyed their company and wanted to help them.
George, when did you get involved in Beacon?
Sam.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Just to enhance on what was said, we were looking for the same, any parent with a child with learning difficulties or physical disability, you know, face the challenges as their child went through school, always being on the outside, you know, never part of the whole like the rest of the folks. So as, you know, and as I said, as my wife researched the places that we could take our daughter to give her this opportunity, not only for an education that would address her learning skills and technique, but it would also provide that socialization that they lacked growing up. If it wasn't for family members, social events and socialization with other folks their age just didn't exist. They were always in the special wing, in the special classrooms, and never part. You know, going to Beacon, this was their world. They made up the population, they made friends. This, in many cases, for the first time, being away from home and being on their own and learning how to do the things that had been done for them over the many years.
And what year was this?
Kristen was here when President Broadbeck started in 1992, and she was part of the 12 students that made up the Beacon College, of 9 young men and 3 young ladies.
Now, Eileen, when did you get involved?
George and I, after shopping around trying to find a place that would meet our son's needs for continuing development, finally we found Beacon in the spring of 1992 through contact with Kristen Battaglia. Serendipitous, we encountered her and we found out she was going to Beacon College. And then we researched it, and Christopher then applied and was accepted for the fall of 1993. I want to add a bit from the parent's perspective. When you love your child and you know that your child has more capacity than has been acknowledged by the school system, you have to do something. You don't turn to these kids and say, you're done. You know, you're finished because there's no fit. So we credit the Timoneys and the Neals and Pat and Peter Latham as parents who had the foresight to say, and the means, we're going to establish a place where our kids fit. And then we found out, not only did they fit, they grew from each other. There's a story I've told many times, so excuse me if I bore you. But our Christopher came to Beacon able to drive. He had his own car. He used to drive to his high school, which was 26 miles from our home. But if you're familiar with New Jersey, it's a long, straight state. And so we speak in terms of where do you live? Exit 130? Well, we were at exit 13 on the Parkway. So Christopher would drive to and from his high school, but he wouldn't go 20 minutes from our house to a movie theater out of fear of getting lost because it wasn't a straight road. He got to Beacon, had his car with him, and within weeks, he was going everywhere. And it went like this. Christopher had the car, and another kid would say, I can't drive, I have a seizure disorder, but I know how to get to Disney. And another kid would say, I can't drive, I don't know how to get to Disney, but I've got the money for the tolls. And the fourth youngster would say, I don't know where we're going, as long as we're gonna have fun, I'm in. And so 4 young people would get in a car, match up their skills, compensate for each other's deficits, right? And they'd end up in Disney. So we would get calls, right, George?
Oh my gosh.
Where are you? I'm at Busch Gardens. When did you get there? Oh, I got there late this morning. We'll be here tonight. Look, I gotta go. We're going somewhere. Wait a minute, tell me more. They're gone, you're off the phone. Within 6 months, our Christopher was running a shuttle service between the college and the Orlando airport.
Yes.
That's a 1-hour ride. He never would have taken on that challenge without Beacon College and the encouragement of other youngsters, young adults, who accepted him for who he was, with all his warts, all his insecurities, and said, you can do this. He couldn't have gotten that on a traditional college campus.
I don't know if you want me to, but I'd like to add a statement. When I talk to Matthew now about Beacon College, and we do now and then, especially when we get information from the school, one of the things he always says after we say, you remember, is because my son is 40 years old now, so it's been a while since he's been there. But anytime we mention Beacon College, he smiles and says, I had a lot of good friends there.
But now, it wasn't easy for your son at first. You were telling me a story over lunch about how you almost had to force him to stay.
Well, yeah, I think initially, any of these students, or even students without learning disabilities, had a little difficulty with the transition from high school to college. And in the case of these students, it's an even more challenging thing. So he was very, very reluctant to be left here, abandoned, so to speak, at this college in Florida. Again, as I was mentioned earlier, he was a little reluctant to take on travel on his own from place to place for fear of getting lost. So I had to encourage him to stick with it, and I made a deal with him when we left him here, and I said to him, look, here's the thing, 2 weeks. Give you 2 weeks. You give this 2 weeks and we'll talk about it. Because he was reluctant to even have me leave him there. I said, here, you're here with your car, you're fine, there's other people. No, he didn't want to stay. But the 2-week deal was what we struck. And within less than a week, when I asked, how's it going? What are you talking about? Everything's fine,